morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is another lovely Wednesday morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Another coffee break chat. I am your host, executive producer of Light Thief Productions, James Jackson. I use he, they pronouns. And we've got a good show for you today. It's gonna get up to a balmy 90 today. So be prepared for that. Other than that, we're going to be talking a little bit about stopping the violence, art, critical race theory, equity, and how Dr. Farley, Hartford County, Maryland, and Oscarville, Georgia, along with some happenings right here in Philadelphia, all tie together. First, I'd like to welcome our special guests. I'm still messing with your layouts on screen because for some reason my layouts got all messed up. But if you'll bear with me one moment, I would like to welcome to the screen. There we go. I'll keep messing with those a little bit later. Balena, Canto, and Iezzi. And if you would introduce yourselves in that order, your pronouns, and what it is you do.
Hi, I'm Balena Canto, she, her, and I am a drag queen and also a trained classical / opera singer as well. In this city, so that's kind of my gig. Yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. And Adam.
Hi, my name's Adam, he, him. I am a producer of mostly cabaret and burlesque style events throughout Philadelphia. I've been doing it for about 10 years now. I also started a bit of an entertainment collective over quarantine of all the different performers to try to get them extra work. There's like a nonprofit for me, but my whole goal is outreach, getting people working in spaces that need the attendance to make the money.
Awesome. So what do you have coming up here? Adam, we were talking just a little bit before the show real quick. You have a couple of events coming up that we're trying to do some COVID recovery, get some live events going again. What do you got coming up?
I actually have two major things that are going to be coming up. Both of them are focused on getting performers working and bringing folks into historic locations and with a fundraising, kind of undertone to it. The first one's going to be June 5th. We're going to be at the Battleship, New Jersey. There's going to be a car show. We have a couple of burlesque dancers coming out dressed like, pinup girls, a few different musicians that I know. And the idea is it's all free to watch so long as you come in and you pay admission to the Battleship. So we bring people to the Battleship. They get their money to fix their deck up and, clean the guns and whatnot. And then we get to collect money for the Veteran Multi-Service Center here in Philadelphia. And the Veteran Multi-Service Center's whole goal is not to give a handout to, veterans that are in need rather than giving them money and stuff. The whole idea is they provide resources, they provide consultations, they provide, networking and different opportunities for them to bring themselves back up to where they want to be. It kind of circumvents the whole military pride that sometimes gets in the way. And the other event is June 12th, which we're doing at Fort Mifflin, which was on my mug, only because my other mug has a curse word on it, and I figured that wouldn't be terribly appropriate. And it's going to be a 1920s lawn party, and it's part experiment, part annual fundraiser. We've been doing a 20s party there since 2013, and as opposed to doing it indoors like we normally do in the casemates, which are very tight, we decided to flip it to a giant outdoor lawn party. So we're going to have 2 bands, a picnic area. Everything's going to be sectioned off, so they're 6 feet apart. Vendors, so we're bringing in a bunch of artists and artisans from the area as well. And the goal is, like it is every year, is to function as the main fundraiser for Fort Mifflin. So again, it's kind of bringing awareness to these historic locations and the people that are there, and the fact that you can do fun, socially distanced, safe events that look really cool and keep people employed and keep the historic locations open and running.
Cool.
Awesome.
That is very awesome. Balena, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, so me and one of my fellow drag artists, Jaja Dali, we are co-producing our own show at Taboo Lounge and Sports Bar in the neighborhood. It is called Fach, and it is an opera-themed drag show. Something that, not necessarily you would think would go together, but really we think complements each other really, really well. Um, so Fach means it just means voice type. It's the German word for it, and it's what opera singers kind of use. They use that term. They'll be like, "What's your Fach?" They'll say that instead of "What's your voice type?" So it's a play on words of that, and it, the F word off.
Hmm.
So that's the little silly title we have for it, and basically we both I'm a trained opera singer. Zaza is an opera lover and also has taken some voice lessons in the past as well. And we just both have a very deep love and appreciation for it. And we both know and uh, have connections with other drag artists and other queer artists in the city that are also classical singers and musicians, that we're going to bring in as well as special guests. And we kind of just want to share this art form with some people that might not be familiar with it, and try to destigmatize it a little bit, because it does have some sort of stereotypes around it that
Destigmatize
opera
which
is
opera?
yeah, yeah, that it's like an unaccessible thing because it's in other languages. It's kind of surrounded by classism and
It has
hoity-toityness, among other things. So we're trying to bring it out of that, that sort of like bring it out of like the theater and bring it into an accessible space like a bar, and put our own sort of twist on it. And I mean, it's not just going to be us standing there singing arias either. We're also going to be doing our own little things, like we're making parodies out of some of them. We're making mixes where, and it's not all opera either. It's going to be musical theater. It's going to be pop. It's going to be basically anything we want it to be. Because opera is basically it's like the technical like definition of it is like a full work, a complete work, so it can really just be whatever the fuck you want it to be.
True.
Which is what I love about it, because it brings together like every art form ever, music, dance, visual arts. It's like a hodgepodge of anything. Some operas have dialogue, some don't. It could be that stereotypical um loud vibrato unamplified sound, or it can be a different style of singing. Like, it could be anything.
Well, I
So
was just gonna say, it's appropriate to set set the scene by having opera in a bar, just because so many operas were written about and or feature bars, the common man,
yeah,
the struggle of somebody who is just a regular person, um
yeah,
just heightening the drama by using the voice.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of that, like in the late 18th century, the Italian Verismo operas. That's like what they were all about. That was a big movement back in that time for sure. But yeah, and opera is very it's very raunchy. It's there's a lot of sex, there's a lot of murder. It's not it's not like, this very prim and proper thing either. There's the subjects aren't they're not delicate, so
I find
it's fun.
that opera kind of, it brings out that, even though like many of the more well-known ones were written like late 1700s into the 1800s and then onwards, they kind of bring back that like commedia aesthetic from like the Renaissance, and it also
Yeah.
brings back a lot of the bawdiness that you find sometimes in Shakespeare, where like theater was about the excitement, you know what I mean? Like you said, the sex, the blood, the gore, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wild to see that presented in front of especially like 19th century audiences. Like you have like Gounod and Faust, and you have Puccini. He did like it's very odd to have that juxtaposed with the Victorian audience, and it's neat to see that again in our setting.
Right. Yeah. So we're just we're trying to bring this back and see what happens. But I think the two will meld together well, and drag is very heightened, opera is very heightened, and I think it's just gonna be some sort of explosion of
That's cool.
Of art. I hope anyway. So yeah, we're really excited about it. And it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow 9 p.m. at Taboo, in Center City, Philadelphia. Tickets are still on sale. You can get them at Bird Events, BURD events.com/Fach off, FACHOFF.
And Meg has pasted your events in the chat, and so yeah, feel free to look at the chat. Take a look at the chat. We'll also paste the events as follow-up comments to our Twitter feed, and feel free also to use our Twitter feed in your promotion. Feel free to copy that over or comment on it or whatever you need to do. And we'll so we have those in the chat for our audience. Feel free to check them out, and please go buy tickets and go to these events. It's super important that we keep working in and expounding the arts as we recover from this year of being inside and socially distant. I know we've tried to. I know Adam, you've tried to do some stuff with socially distanced events, and this outdoor event that you're having. Both of them are outdoor, or
both outdoor. Although the battleship has interior sections, everything we're going to be doing is outdoors on the pier.
And so they're still socially distant, even though vaccine rates are increasing and infection rates are falling. Balena, your event is indoors at Taboo.
It is indoors, and they they have all the regulations that the city requires, that you wear masks whenever you're up from your tables, and it's still a certain amount of capacity, but yeah, they have the space for it, but we all wear shields and such, but it's indoors.
Great. And is it for accessibility needs, is there any way for people to participate if they don't aren't able to attend at Taboo? Would you recommend they just purchase tickets or follow you on social media, or what is there anything else that they can do to participate?
Right. Taboo, we are on the 3rd floor, and I do not think they have as far as I know, they don't have an elevator. So that's one thing I will mention. And it won't necessarily be streamed, but definitely if you want to follow my social media, I will most likely have videos and um, clips from the show itself,
Excellent.
for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, so those are all of those links are out there. And so folks should definitely go out and see these fine shows. Hopefully, this also, if you're not fully vaccinated yet, will encourage you to get fully vaccinated. If if you're not fully vaccinated yet, there is today a what are they calling it? Walk-in Wednesdays? Yeah, walk-up Wednesday. So if you follow Philadelphia Public Health on Twitter or Facebook, they're having walk-up Wednesday at select health department centers. You can go to phila.gov slash 2021/4/07. It's a long, but you can go to phila.gov and find the walk up Wednesdays information, and I will also paste that in all the chats here. So these are walk up vaccine clinics. You can get your first of 2 shots if you're getting the 2-shot, either of the 2-shot vaccinations, or you can get your single shot if you're getting a single shot vaccination. That brings us rather unceremoniously to Dr. Farley. Dr. Farley, for those who don't know, was until recently and still sort of is the head of the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. He's been the head of the Philadelphia Department of Public Health as a commissioner for the entirety of Mayor Kenny's term. And there was some public consternation, and yeah, I'm using a polite word for it. There was quite a bit of justified kerfuffle on last week, in the last week and a half. Apparently, Dr. Farley, on moving into his new offices as a first-term health commissioner, was informed that one of the offices contained remains of some of the move bombing victims. These were bone fragments and other elements of remains of the move bombing. And he apparently ordered the destruction of these remains by cremation, and was told that his orders were carried out. And I don't know how much everybody's been paying attention in the news, but just a brief aside to go over what we're talking about. The move bombing was when the city of Philadelphia decided to explode ordnance on the top of a house of residents of the city of Philadelphia who were not actually at the time breaking the law. They were just surrounded by police. So there were some 20 people in this area, this house, and it was multiple houses that this group called Move used as a compound residence, not as a like military compound, but the correct term is compound in this case. They use it as a compound residence. They all freely interchange between these multiple buildings, and they were bombed by the police department and the mayor's office of the city of Philadelphia at the time. This started a fire, which destroyed the building, killed multiple people, and destroyed multiple other buildings, actually about a 3-block radius around the move compound, displacing a couple hundred people from their homes, and destroying their homes and their belongings, etc. Yeah, it was an interesting time not so long ago. And not so long ago that the folks that were involved, that were killed, and that were being as the crime was a crime of the city bombing itself was being investigated, the remains were kept by the medical examiner's office. Some remains were shuffled around to various organizations around the city of Philadelphia, like Penn University, some universities over in New Jersey, and the ostensible reason why those remains were originally shuffled around was because they were to be used in investigation. So folks were supposed to be investigating how this happened and making sure it never happened again. Well, that didn't actually happen. The remains were used in teaching. They were used to demonstrate different things, and they were kept from the remaining family. Instead of being returned to them, they were kept from the family, including the remains that remained in the city of Philadelphia, and ended up in this office in City Hall. Dr. Farley had a choice. He could have ordered the remains, the family contacted and said, hey, these are remains of your family. You can have them properly interred, or you can tell me what to do with them. He had a choice there. He could have done a number of things, but he just decided to unilaterally destroy the remains. So that came to light. The mayor's office, Mayor Kenny asked Dr. Farley to resign, even though he's been spearheading the Philadelphia response to COVID-19 and doing a relatively okay job with that. The city of Philadelphia didn't suffer any of the consequences like New York or other major cities did. We had a relatively low death rate and low infection rate throughout the pandemic. Not that it's over, but we've been doing pretty good. And even though he decided to resign, he is still being kept on the payroll. He's stepped down from his office as a commissioner, but he remains on the Philadelphia payroll so that he can accrue enough pay periods to qualify for Philadelphia's pension program, wherein he will get $2,500 a month in pension as soon as he qualifies for the pension program. Yeah, long way around, but that's a story as it exists so far. I find it fascinating, and it ties in with all of these politicians who seem to be in it for themselves. There's been some reporting here in Philadelphia about Talcum X. Let me see, what are some of the other nicknames we can use? I have a list here. Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, I don't know if you all have heard any of these. Vanilla Isis, but Vanilla Isis, I don't know. That one doesn't fit so good. Moe's Theft, W.E. Dubage, W.E.B. Du Fraud. Yeah, these are all good. Feel free to laugh. They are funny. So this is Sean King we're talking about. Oh, hey,
I was
Chris.
actually laughing and just had myself muted.
Let me add Chris to the broadcast here. At any rate, so we're talking about Sean King, and Sean King is an activist, quote unquote, and fundraiser, and he does work in the Democratic Party, in social justice activism, etc. I don't know how valuable that work is per se. I don't know. I don't know how to define it. So yeah, essentially, he does a lot of work around social justice, and what I've said in the past, I still believe to be true, and I don't think I have a need to back down from it, because there's ample evidence and receipts out there. He's pretty much a fraud. He basically latches on to things that are happening, things that are popular in public, and then takes the money from that is generated by those causes, and uses it, directs it to his own companies and coffers. I'm gonna welcome to the screen Chris. Feel free to introduce yourself, your pronouns, what it is you do.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris. I am a union stagehand in Philadelphia. I use he, him pronouns or they, them pronouns. Does not matter to me. And happy to be here once again.
Thanks for coming on again. We all work in the performance industry, you know, the entertainment industry. I'm sure Adam, I'm sure Blanca, I'm sure Chris, you've all seen folks like this, like Sean in and around your work. Not necessarily that you've asked them to join you, but that they tend to worm their way in sometimes. I know I have, even though all I do is produce stuff. Any thoughts, feel free to jump in if
you're right, talking about the 500-foot cheesesteak. But where do you want me to start with this? I mean, the whole human thing is just not the cheesesteak. No, the human remains. That has been a touchy subject pretty much since the dawn of the human being dying. What to do with the remains, and it's the fact that the remains were just still hanging around the office. How many years now after move that this has occurred?
Well, wasn't it?
It's been upwards of 30 years at this point, if not more. And they haven't reached out to anybody. I don't know if that's the entire story, because that seems a little beyond inappropriate, but a little, God, what's a good word for it? I don't even know how to describe what happened.
It's been 36 years. Just for
criminal.
They have to have someone to contact for that. Like, it's not just like those people disappeared off the face of the earth and their family doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
Oh, I would suggest that the city of Philadelphia knew very well who was related to these people. I don't think there were any mistakes or any who do we talk to? I'm going to suggest that the people who were involved were probably, or actually definitely heavily surveilled before the incident happened, and they knew who those people associated with outside of the normal records that are used, like for determining who somebody's next of kin or nearest closest relative. It's pretty rare that somebody dies and you just like don't have anybody to contact.
Short of being homeless with no ID on them, there's no reason why they should have information. And to first of all treat it almost like a Victorian, like oddity exhibition, and just kind of pass the body parts around like there's some kind of mummy is
man. That's it. I got that's kind of vibe.
Like it's like an Elephant Man kind of situation. You know what I mean? It's like when he died, they just kept the body and like didn't notify anyone. That's just on display. And then to just get rid of it like you're cremating a cat is obscene. I was like my historian brain of like preservation and archive, everything was going nuts. I'm like, there are so many better uses you could have done. There's so many better ways it could have been categorized and archived.
Well, wasn't it like, the great Philadelphian Ben Franklin, wasn't it him who said something to the effect of like one of the best measures of a society is how you treat, your dead, and like to like desecrate, the remains of these people doesn't really reflect very well on the city of Philadelphia or the people who are impacted.
In London, they found bodies in his basement because he lodged with a doctor, and the doctor would pick up bodies from body snatchers, pay for them so he can do like anatomical analysis and experiments. So like he also grew up in a time when desecrating a body for the sake of science because you didn't have anything in a textbook was normal. So
right. Well, I mean, hence the air quotes when I say great Philadelphian, but
I don't know. But that blew me away. Like it basically goes back to the time of body snatching where they would rob stuff from, Washington Square and bring it across the street to the University of Pennsylvania, Old City.
Well, and I think it, I mean, perhaps I'm overreacting because, being a member of the Black community, these are painful topics to most of us. But I feel like it just indicates the level of callousness with which folks in the Black community are treated even now. Folks in any minority community. I mean, you look at the way the city treats transgender individuals. You look at the way the city treats the LGBTQ community. You look at the way the city treats anything other than the creators of the 3 block long cheesesteak, and suddenly there's I mean, forgive me, but I love me some cheesesteak, and thanks for bringing that up. But you shut down a city street to create a 3 block long cheesesteak. Meanwhile, there's folks that are complaining constantly about we can't shut down the street for protests, or we can't shut down the street for people to have their say. I don't know.
Where are your priorities?
Is it also making you on the nose to suggest that the way that these human remains were treated was the city of Philadelphia treating Black bodies essentially as property? Like, is that a little too on the nose, or?
I don't think it's too on the nose, but that's just me.
I mean, it was almost like they treated it like an insignificant artifact. It's like it was
right. Yeah.
In addition to that, you already have that stigma attached to move, because even years and years after the fact, there's still controversy about that. Like the fact that like there's still folks that are like, oh no, like bombing that was totally the right thing to do in that situation. The fact that they kind of still treat them almost like domestic terrorists after the fact, and they dispose of the body like it's a couple pieces of paper or like a piece of trash is just wild.
Well,
like
and to talk about move, the move bombing and the move, the whole reaction to move as a movement to me, is indicative of how of when an area organizes against a community, a part of their community. So, you know, what I wanted to talk about there is there's a county in Maryland, Hartford County. It's really near the northern end of Maryland. I'm actually from there. Hartford County, Maryland, is an interesting mix. There's a lot of very black communities. There's a lot of very the South will rise again white communities. There's it's a wild and interesting mix of people. And there are places that you do not go as a black person. I learned this growing up. You know, you don't go to Rising Sun and expect to make it out if you're there after dark. There is a town called Haverty Grace, and the area of Hartford County is represented by Representative Lauren Arikin. Lauren Arikin is a representative of in the Maryland State Delegation, and she represents Haverty Grace. In Haverty Grace last week, there was a person who rammed their truck into a police department after shooting at black and Asian people randomly along the street. And Representative Arikin decided to blame this on Antifa.
What?
Yeah, that's a weird one, man. I get that right now Antifa is like the reactionary boogeyman. Like everybody who, like, you know, is a reactionary or has reactionary politics and opinions is just going to point to Antifa because, like, I think it's a really effective tool for them because it doesn't actually exist in the way that they're claiming. It's not an organization. Like, for anybody who's unclear about that, it is not an organization. There's no organizational structure. In fact, I would also suggest that anybody who's saying that, like, a bunch of anarchists are a highly organized,
are capable of organizing.
like think about those things for a second there. Like, you know, it's almost like people don't really understand what the term anarchism means either. But that's neither here nor there, really.
Well, again, anarchist was always one of those words coming in like the 80s and 90s that was, again, used like for the catch-all for the boogeyman. Basically.
Well, it was good boogeyman when we I don't know if you remember the movie Triple X, but it was a good movie. It was just direct sub for the Russians, you know, like it was what you know, Hollywood latched onto as a good big bad, so that you could have those movie scripts. That's basically all it was.
Yeah, exactly.
The funniest thing to me, though, is like the people who seem to be most like afraid of the concept of the term anarchism are people who are like, I'm a conservative, I believe in small government. And I'm like,
do you though?
Like, how small?
Yeah.
How small is too small, right? Like,
yeah, all of those people who say I'm a sovereign citizen, and I need my guns to protect me from the government. You're anarchists, okay? You believe in anarchy.
I don't like the government. I want to do my own thing because I'm an individual and I have my rights. But you're basically saying I don't want any kind of organization or
right.
Oh, Jesus.
So I brought up Hartford County because I have been paying attention to this story of this ex-Navy veteran. He's a black man. He lives in Hartford County, and attention has been focused on him by his neighbors and his representatives, even getting into some of the folks in media actually trying to help him stay in his community. So about 3 or 4 years ago, he bought a house in Hartford County. He is a black man. He's married to a white woman. He's an ex-Navy veteran. There's a lot of military in Hartford County. There's Aberdeen Proving Ground. Haverty Grace is almost all military. So these kind of places, these neighborhoods do exist where you'll have people who fly, the defunct Confederacy's battle flag next to a person who unironically flies the American flag. So what has happened is that as protests picked up after George Floyd's murder, which happened a year ago yesterday, as protests picked up, this man who just moved into his house with his wife. He's an HVAC technician now. He was in the military. He's served his country. He still does good work for the community. He decided to fly a Black Lives Matter flag underneath of his American flag. He thought that it was appropriate for him to recognize that Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, he was having a party on his lawn. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This starts a little bit earlier. After he flew the Black Lives Matter flag, a neighbor confronted him at his mailbox one day. This is a rural-ish community, so the mailbox is set out, in front of the house, and the house is set back on a yard. And said, how dare you, these Antifa are anti-American, you're destroying America, blah blah blah. It got heated. He is an ex-military veteran. He's not going to just sit there and listen to somebody berate him. The postal carrier allegedly began misdelivering his mail, not closing his mailbox, leaving his packages by his mailbox rather than bringing them up to the porch, etc. And he made a couple of complaints to the postmaster and whatnot. And then he had a party in the spring with some of his friends, a Black Lives Matter party, raising some money for local Black Lives Matter movements and also representing the fact that Black Lives Matter. And a neighbor came up on a ATV and threatened him and began calling him names and whatnot, and assaulted him. And all of this was caught on camera because, it's 2021. We all have camera production gear in our pockets. So now, just last week, Hartford County Police issued a citation to appear in court, saying that his social media posts are a violation of privacy for both the police department and the neighbor who assaulted him.
What?
Yeah.
They're serious. That's not some kind of sick fucking joke.
I don't know if it's...
Isn't like
I
all
just
of
want to I
all
just
of
want to
these
clarify this
these
guy
violations?
onto this man's property was recorded committing multiple crimes, like assaulting this guy and like verbally berating him, like just harassing him, all these things, and the guy telling people that this happened was a violation of the privacy of the criminal and the police.
Yeah,
That's
a
like
no.
punching someone in the
I'm
face.
just trying to make sure I heard that correctly, because
You
that's
broke.
You heard.
what?
So this all goes to the greater point that I wanted to make, which is Oscarville, Georgia. Oscarville, Georgia is a town that existed where there is now a lake, but about 25 years before the lake was designed, it was built in Georgia to provide water for the city of Atlanta. Hydroelectric and water dam was built to retain water into this lake. It's a huge lake in Georgia. And it buried several towns, but about 25 years before this was even planned, there was a thriving town of a couple of thousand black residents called Oscarville. It being Georgia, rural Georgia, there's white towns and black towns right next to each other. You don't usually see the residents participating in activities with each other, but they do run across each other on a day-to-day basis, and at things like going to purchase things. At any rate, as was relatively common at the time, a black man was accused of raping a white woman. That caused a lynch mob, which had eventually lynched that black man, and also lynched several other black folks, which then escalated because the lynch mob wasn't satisfied at that point and literally destroyed and drove from the town of Oscarville all of 1,100 residents, black residents, and made them evacuate the town of Oscarville and move into various other places around rural Georgia. So why do I bring up this story? Why do I bring up all of these stories? Because they're repeating. So we've gone a little bit backwards in history here. We've gone from the city of Philadelphia 35 years ago. We've gone to Hartford County, Maryland recently, and we've gone to Oscarville. This is over 100 years ago, and it doesn't stop. It hasn't stopped. It does, and we're here in the city of Philadelphia dealing with a epidemic of quote unquote crime in gun violence, and you have a lot of people flogging themselves trying to figure out why and how we can stop this, and where all these stories weave together is that the black community has never had the ability to trust in the system as it exists. So that's where you get gun crime. That's where you get gun violence. You get a community trying to take care of itself outside the system. And that's why the gun violence exists. That's if you want to stop the violence, you're gonna have to create a system that's equitable, and that's the long and short of it.
If I could piggyback onto that point too, I think the one mistake a lot of people who are pretty uninformed about gun crime and gun violence in these communities I think a lot of people think it's just random, like, oh, it's just walking down the street and just pulled my gun out and shot somebody. Like, no, there's a lot of things that sort of are precursors to these types of crimes. Like, a lot of it is like the drug trade. A lot of it is just like you're saying, communities taking care of yourself. If somebody in your community commits a crime against another member of your community and you don't feel like you can call the cops, but something needs to be done about it, that's how you end up with, like, not to say that like it's justified to go out and commit acts of vigilante justice, but if you feel like there's no way to get justice in the current system, like, what do you do? Do you just not do anything about it? I think that people need to take a deeper, like you're saying, need to take a deeper look at like what's actually causing the crime, instead of just going, Larry Krasner is causing people to murder people. Like, it's not what's happening.
Yep. Well, at any rate, I need to wrap up a little bit early, so if anybody has any last thoughts, the floor is yours. Feel free to drop any ideas or thoughts in, and then I'll just wrap up real quick at 55 here.
I mean, as a lifelong Philadelphian, I know that other folks that have lived in the city for a very long time, of any color, race, background, religion, whatever it might be, don't really trust or like the system either. Like, I know a lot of folks will take any opportunity they can to complain about the Philadelphia government, and then like rally behind dumb crap like the cheesesteak or like the Phillies or something like that. So there's a definite disconnect between all of the communities, at least like the lifelong resident communities that have roots here in Philadelphia, and the government in general. So in addition to finding that equity for Black communities, you also need to be able to roll in the folks who are in the city, who've been in the city, whose families go back God knows how many generations, because they don't want to participate either. So no matter how much you want to say, like, oh, I've worked the polls for the past 20 years, they'll find any opportunity they can to either ignore or be angry with the government anyway. So they also need to come up to par in order to help. And on that, my phone is ringing. Give me a second. I'm going to quiet that for you.
Any thoughts, Blanca?
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything.
Thanks.
I appreciate everything you said.
I appreciate it. Any last thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna echo what Blanca said. I think you did a great job explaining a lot of the topics. And I would encourage, as I oftentimes do, people going out and doing some more research and getting literate and getting educated on these subjects. You mentioned a few of these like instances where like entire communities of Black people that were like, we're not talking about like, your stereotypical like, oh, ghetto, like there's drug dealing. That no, like productive communities of people were just entirely uprooted by like racist mobs. There's a lot of really famous ones, or famous in the sense that like if you dig into it at all, you might know about it, but not in the sense that it's covered in our standard history classes in school. But like, the Tulsa Black Wall Street incident, like Operation Move, the one you were talking about in where was the town in Virginia, I believe it was.
In Georgia.
I'm
Georgia.
Or Georgia, yeah. I'm sorry, the one you were just talking to. But these are none of these are like in any way isolated incidents, and to like really understand them, you got to dig a little bit deeper than just knowing that they exist. So read up on it, guys.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you all. Thank you for being guests today, and really appreciate it. We will probably not be back next week. I know I had promised to be back next week, but it looks like we might be taking our leave a little bit early. So tune in. Probably the next time will be mid-July. That we come back on for a coffee break chat. But thank you for being my guest today. Really appreciate it. And I hope to speak with you all again really soon. And
In-
I'm sorry, you were cut off there.
I hope to speak with you in person sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully vaccinated now, so we'll be doing some in-person events real soon. So again, thank you to all my guests. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Blanca. Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate you coming on the coffee break chat today. I'm gonna jump out, and thank you all to all of our audience. Thank you for tuning in every week. Feel free to amuse yourself with some of the history of coffee break chat over the next few weeks. We've got a full archive on YouTube and on Facebook, so feel free to watch any of those. You might find some of the production values a little bit funny, just because we've been trying to improve over time. But yeah, feel free to like, share, subscribe to us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and please check out the links that we posted in the chat today. Consider attending the events that our guests have coming up. The arts are important. It's a great opportunity to get your art and interest fulfilled. So yeah, I will see you all soon. We'll let you know if there's a special coffee break chat next week. And then other than that, look for us in mid-July. And if you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, you'll get a notification as soon as we do go live. So thanks everyone, and have a great week.